And you're just in time for your weekly most comprehensive look at the world of business and economics. This week, this is rather Business Redefined, and this week we are focusing on the question of affordable housing. A study conducted by the World Bank 5 years ago revealed that only 10.2% of urban households in Kenya could afford the cheapest newly constructed house at a cost of 1.7 million shillings. The study put into perspective the shortage of housing units, which would be deemed affordable for majority of households in the country. 3 years ago, the government outlined its Big Four agenda, one of which was affordable housing. Through this agenda, 500,000 housing units are to be constructed by 2022, 45% of these households being under the low-cost housing category, with the rest lying between the social and affordable housing. 3 years since rollout, how far is Kenya with the affordable housing agenda? How many units have been constructed and handed over to purchasers? How are these units spread across various counties? To explore this and more, I will be joined by the Housing Principal Secretary Charles Hinga. But before that, let's look at some high-level figures which will help us make sense of this discussion in terms of affordable housing. Now, if you break down the 500,000 housing units, you can see that 225,000 are under the low-cost housing, 125,000 are under social housing, and I'll be explaining this a lot more in our second graphic, and 150,000 are under the affordable housing category. And moving on to the next, the allocation criteria. Now, social housing, to be qualified for this category, you should be having a maximum monthly income of 20,000 shillings. So that's how social housing is defined. Low-cost housing, your monthly income gross should be ranging between 21,000 and 59,999 shillings. And that's how we define the low-cost housing. And finally, when you look at the allocation criteria for the mortgage gap or the affordable housing category, then you're looking at the bracket which is above 60,000 shillings. And to our third consideration here, the maximum pricing, when you look at a one-bedroom unit, the price should be about 1 million shillings. The two-bedroom should be at about 2 million shillings based on what the data has been put out by the government. And finally, the three-bedroom unit should be retailing at about 3 million shillings. And therefore, that gives you a sense of what the government is targeting in terms of pricing, and also looking at a number of other factors in terms of how you qualify for the three categories: social housing, low-cost housing, or affordable housing. But now let me bring on board the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, that is Charles Hinga, to join us in this conversation. PS Hinga, welcome on set. Just to begin our conversation, how far are we in terms of our performance rate regarding the affordable housing agenda, PS? Yeah, we seem to be having a little challenge with regarding his audio. Will be coming to the PS. PS, if you could unmute rather your mic, so we get you. Are you there, PS?
I can take it again?
Yeah, please take it now.
Thank you so much, and good evening to the viewers. With respect to the affordable housing program, it's very important to understand when we embarked on this journey, what really was the goal in mind. Many years after independence, we have a country where housing is unaffordable and unavailable. And why did we get here? Whereby a country of 47 odd million, we have less than 25,000 mortgages, and one of the lowest mortgage rates in the world. It meant that there is a systemic problem. And the way you fix a systemic problem is you must go deep into what the challenges are and fix them, because anything else will mean that you will have short-term gains, but you're still not going to be able to address the long-term issues. And what were these challenges that we had? Our country, Kenya, now Nairobi has been ranked as having the highest, the most expensive land in the continent of Africa. So you cannot have the word affordable housing and land that is most expensive in the continent in the same sentence. We also have one of the highest cost of constructions. We also have a lot of processes that undermine the ability for people to own housing. And of course, financing is only available to only 3% of the entire population. So the last couple of years, we had to set the scene and put together the structures to be able to address those issues. And that is what we have achieved. We have managed to address the issues of land, the issues of by being able to identify over 12,000 acres of land across the entire country. And we are still identifying more. This land is going to be made available, and that is both private and government land, which is going to be made available to investors to develop the land. The other thing that is very important to understand about affordable housing is that it was not government that was meant to put in money to build those houses. Otherwise, you're talking about having almost 1.2 trillion shillings going into building houses. And in a country where we know that our budget is quite tight, our fiscal space also is a bit challenged, we embarked on bringing the private sector to do the development. But for them to do that, you needed to make it attractive. And therefore, we have had 39 pieces of legislation that have either been amended and some have been put as new legislations, policies and policies that have also been put in place. And now, as we speak, the journey has begun in earnest. And we have seen that in just the last couple of months, we have approved over 130,000 units on private land. Last week alone, we advertised another 33,000 housing units coming up on government-owned land. We have just completed the Eastland master plan, where there is going to be another 170,000 housing coming in there, with the first 10 being advertised in the next coming weeks. And these are old Eastlands estate. We have already awarded Starehe, Shauri Moyo A and B. We know Park Road is already under construction. You know Pangani is under construction, and Jivanji is under construction. So all the pieces are coming together. But what I'm just essentially trying to tell you is that you needed to put all the pieces. The pieces need to be in place for you to be able to embark on such an ambitious plan. Okay. And now, being very fast to be able to provide this hope to our Kenyans.
And PS rightfully saying that, of course, this is the whole project pipeline which has to be executed through a number of phases, and you've outlined a number of them. Many Kenyans would just like to know how many have been completed and how many have been handed over, because we've covered this before with you.
So first of all, in terms of completion, the only ones that are completed, so to say, is just one, which is a civil servant housing scheme in Kisumu. But also, you need to put into context. The smallest project in my pipeline actually at the moment is Park Road. And Park Road, which began last year, is going to take 18 months. So it's very important also to be able to put things into context. That houses don't just mushroom the next day. It's a very complex process. And by the way, Park Road being the smallest, it's also, you're talking about 5 billion shillings investment. So it's a lot of money that you're talking about. And also the projects themselves are sizable. And you have got a myriad of issues, from litigations to issues of titling and so on and so forth, that you have got to go through before you can actually be able to hand over keys. So the most important thing is not really at this stage how many houses are completed. What is important is, have we been able to address those systemic issues? And is affordable housing now an attractive asset class? And this, we need to know that it is a plan that we're putting in place to go beyond 2022, because the issue of housing is not a 2022 issue. It's not a short-term goal. This is something that is contained in our constitution under Article 43. This is something that is contained in our Vision 2030, where we say that we, the people, want to make sure that we have a high quality of life. Yeah. And for us to be able to do that, then we have got to address the issue of housing. But you cannot address a systemic issue by just scratching the surface. You've got to scratch the surface. You've got to go into the deep waters and address those issues if at all this program is going to be sustainable.
PS Hinga, we have about 2 minutes to take a break. Just briefly in that period, you talk about systemic issues. We've been discussing the issue of a land pricing index in this country. Just speak to us about the progress made regarding this issue of land.
Yeah, so on the issue of land, there is quite a bit that has we have been able to achieve, and the bulk of it still to be done, because the issue of land value index is still in Parliament. Both it was passed by Parliament, then it went to Senate because it affects counties, and then Senate made changes, and now there is what they call a reconciliation of both. So that is going to be a massive breakthrough for us in the housing sector, because it will address this issue of holding land for speculation. And the other issue is the issue of titling. We've been on a journey of digitizing our land registry, and I'm happy to say that the Nairobi land registry is almost 100% complete, or almost 95% complete. This is very important because if you are going to attract private investors, the sanctity of titles is very, very, very important. So we have made tremendous progress in those last 2 years. In the past, for example, I have one financial institution that has funded a program, and 24 months later, they have not been able to issue titles despite the project have been completed.
Yes.
And that is only going to add into the cost of those houses, because the bank is not going to sit down and say, look, it's 2 years of interest, I'm going to write it off. So the issue of land is very, very, very important. We have to fix it.
All right. And that's PS Charles Singer speaking to Business Redefined in the first segment of this show, focusing on affordable housing. We'll be right back, including taking your feedback from social media and posing some of those questions to the PS. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Business Redefined. Tonight we are focusing on the subject of affordable housing. It's been 3 years since the government rolled out this agenda under its Big Four initiative. And tonight we're just taking stock with the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Housing and Urban Development, and that is Charles Singer. And before the break, we discussed a number of issues, including the systemic challenges he was highlighting that were underlying in the sector, including the issue of land pricing. And now we are back with the PS Singer. PS, you spoke about crowding in the private sector just before the break. And when I speak to a number of investors out here, they talk about the fact that real estate as an asset class has been undergoing a bit of market correction. The prices have been coming down, and of course the yields might not be as attractive as they have been in the past. How is this impacting the appetite for this particular agenda?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute again. Sorry. Actually, the opposite is what we are experiencing, and I'll tell you why. You see, for a long time, the real estate sector has been focusing on constructing housing for the 3%, and therefore, what they were chasing were high margins, were big profits, and we've also seen there is a huge percentage of non-performing loans on that category. So a lot of the high-end market, the people are defaulting. Now, when you come to the affordable housing side, the margins may not be as high, but the volumes are very high. And therefore, we have seen a clamor for affordable housing. As we speak right now, I have over 300 investors that have registered under a strategic partnership. I have got 8 banks that have already formally written to us that they want to finance affordable housing to a tune of 338 billion. 338 billion shillings in writing is now available for people who want houses for 1 million shillings, 2 million shillings, 3 million shillings, up to 5 million shillings. That is a major breakthrough in this country. If you recall that last few years, it was very difficult for you to be able to get a house of below 10 million. So we are succeeding. And as I said, we are succeeding because we had to focus on, first of all, setting the policies, making sure that the incentives are in place, and also making sure that we are able to crowd in private sector capital by simplifying processes like titling, as I mentioned earlier on, and also providing some backstopping in terms of investors who want to come and invest. As we speak right now, I have a pipeline of projects of up to 570,616 in various categories. So we are well on our way, but it is very, very important to understand that it's important to have all the pieces to be in place if at all we succeed in this.
Great. And some quick feedback here on Twitter. Bill Karush is tweeting asking What is the process of allocation, and can someone be allocated more than one unit?
The process of allocation is one house, one household, right?
Okay.
And you will not be allowed to get more than one unit, and for simple reasons. For us to be able to get those houses at prices of 1 million, 2 million, and 3 million, Kenyans have had to subsidize through tax incentives, and therefore it will be very wrong for those subsidies to be used, and then someone buys one house and then uses the other one for trading. And there is also other strict measures we have put in, for example, that you cannot get that one house and sell before 8 years, simply because of the point I have put across, that we don't want people to start speculating and buying these houses and selling them. If you take Park Road, for example, Park Road, a 3 million house in Park Road is going for about 7 million in the market. So if we allowed those practices, someone is just going to go buy at 3 million and the next day they flip it for 7 million.
Yes.
And therefore, we're going to find ourselves back to the same place where we started, where the houses are unavailable and unaffordable.
P.S., we have about 3 minutes to go, and just another very quick question here. Someone is asking that if you look at the categorization in terms of local, social, and the mortgage gap, it looks like it's targeting the formal market or people in formal employment. What about those in the informal?
Absolutely not. There is housing for everybody. There is housing for those who are in the social housing bracket, and that is people who earn less than 20,000. As a matter of fact, next month we are going to be embarking on probably one of the most audacious projects in the neighborhood of Mukuru, where we are going to be building 15,000 houses. And those 15,000 houses are going to be for people who are going to pay 2,500 shillings a month, 4,500 shillings a month, and 6,500 shillings a month. And this is what we are calling social housing. There is houses for people who earn 50,000 and below. There are houses for people who earn 100,000 and below. And there are houses for people who earn 150,000 and above. Because we have got to address it for everyone in the country. That is what affordable housing is all about. And by the way, by definition, is that affordable housing means that you should not spend more than 30% of your disposable income to own or to rent a house.
Okay.
That is our goal, and that is what we are working hard to make sure that we make it available to all Kenyans.
P.S. Singa, my final question, of course, we had the proposal to have statutory deductions under the Housing Development Fund. This, of course, has been stalled by a court order. How much of a rollback has this been in terms of this agenda?
Of course, it has been a major setback, but we did not cement ourselves, and we did not have a pity party and say we are stuck in court and we sit on our laurels and do nothing. And as a matter of fact, His Excellency the President, during his Jamhuri Day speech, he directed us to vacate from the mandatory contribution and go into voluntary contribution. Of course, the effect of that is that the housing fund was supposed to provide comfort to investors that they can build those houses, and the money that is being collected was about almost 9 billion shillings a month, which was supposed to come into the fund, which was going to accelerate the delivery of those houses. However, Kenyans have registered in big numbers on Boma Yangu. We have over 300,000 Kenyans registered on Boma Yangu as we speak, and we have got close to 500 million shillings already saved through voluntary contribution. So I believe that the minute Kenyans see the first people getting keys to their own homes, the equation is going to change. We're going to have a lot more people saving towards a house, because Kenyans want houses, but they want houses they can be able to afford. And the last point on that is I would like to encourage all those who are in the pension market to also realize that in the Income Tax Act this year,
yes,
there was an amendment to the RBA Act. You are now able to tap into your pension for you to be able to put towards a home. We want to make sure that Kenyans don't get houses when they are in retirement, but you get them early enough and enjoy the benefit of that house. There's a lot we can talk about this particular agenda, but we would like you to go to bomayangu.go.ke. There is a lot of information on affordable housing program.
Many thanks, PS Singa. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had to discuss this matter. We'll, of course, be inviting the PS again to shed more insight into these details regarding the affordable housing agenda. Up next is the Markets Review.
NTV Business News in association with Kenya Ports Authority. Growing business, enriching lives.